In order to solve for the IS equation, we're going to go ahead and put everything together that we've learned with what consumption, investment, government purchases, and net exports are. So this is in the LMS, in your Canvas page, for those of you who may be watching this that are not currently in my intermediate macro class. Feel free to send me a message and I can work through some of the other parts. But for now, what we're looking at is we know that consumption was C bar plus MPC Y minus T bar minus C times R. And then we knew investment was I bar minus D times R plus F bar, which are financial frictions. G was just G bar, and NX was NX bar minus X times R. So what we got here was we said we know that we are in the equilibrium when we have consumption. This was our investment. This was government purchases. This was net export. So we're in this goods market equilibrium where the kind of the supply is equal to the overall, planned expenditures, what people want. But what we're trying to do here is we're going to take this and we're going to solve for Y. So we're going to solve for Y. And the reason why we need to do that is because we have income over here on the right and on the left. So let's go ahead and do that. The way we're going to do that is let's just distribute everything through so that way we things look a little cleaner. So we're just going to do Y equals, C bar plus MPC times Y minus MPC times T bar minus C times R plus I bar minus D times R minus D times F bar. Make sure you're distributing your negative signs through, plus G bar plus NX bar minus XR. So the next thing we want to do is we want to move this. We're going to subtract MPC times Y from both sides. So we're going to get Y minus MPCY equals, and I'm going to rearrange some of this stuff. So that's going to cross out. The MPCY is going to cross out. And I'm going to put my autonomous spending, which we'll talk about here in a second. I'm going to get C bar, I bar, G bar, and NX bar all together, right? So there's a positive C bar, I bar, G bar, NX bar. I'm then going to take my MPC T bar. I'm going to also take my D times F bar. And then what I want to do is I want to put all of the other things that are associated with R together. So minus C times R, minus D times R, minus X times R. So let's put these things together to make a little easier. The next thing is let's go ahead and factor out a Y on the left-hand side. So Y is going to be taken out of the first one, which is 1 minus MPC. So notice what I'm doing here is if I take a Y out of here, I'm left with 1. If I take a Y out of this, I'm left with MPC. So I'm trying to isolate the Y so I can solve this out. The right-hand side is going to be the same, C bar plus I bar plus G bar plus NX bar minus MPC T bar, I'll put a bar over that, minus D F bar. But what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to take this as minus, and then it's going to be C plus D plus X times R, right? So I'm just factoring out the minus R. So I'm factoring out a minus R, and I'm left with a C, D, and an X. This will help us out just when we're getting to a few things, okay? I'm going to go ahead and make this just a little bit smaller. That way we can make sure we can fit everything on one screen. And what are we going to do? We're going to divide, we're going to multiply basically both sides by 1 over 1 minus MPC, which will get rid of that, which will leave us with Y equals. Now I'm going to multiply this first part, 1 over 1 minus MPC, and I'm going to be left with C bar plus I bar plus G bar plus NX bar minus MPC T bar minus D times F bar. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to pull the C plus D plus X divided by 1 minus MPC. And that's going to be times R. So what we've got here, if I make this a little smaller again to fit it on the screen, what we've got here is we have my IS function. So I have y as a function of r. What we're going to see here when we have all the numbers, like you'll be given all these numbers, you'll be able to create this as here will be a number minus some sort of coefficient times r. This is what our IS function is going to be. And there's a few things that we can really look at with this IS function, which we'll talk about a lot during this class, right? We have a clear understanding, hopefully, of autonomous spending. So the part of spending that is not associated with income. We've also talked before in our intro level classes about a spending multiplier. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in this class as well. Plus, we can see how a bunch of other things are going to impact output, right? The interest rate is going to be a negative, and we already saw that with our downward sloping IS curve. We can see how financial frictions, we can see how taxes, everything, how that's going to impact overall national income. And so the IS function tells us a lot. So throughout this week, what we're going to do is we're going to analyze each part of this and say, hey, what happens if government purchases goes up? Or what happens if taxes go up? Then we can see how the IS curve is going to react to any of those types of changes.